When you think about your content, you want to be creating video for each stage of the buyer's journey, each layer of, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. You really need to show up as the leader of the company or executives in your company to kind of establish credibility and rapport. And that helps to build trust and credibility really for your whole brand.
You might want to reconsider your sales funnel and the videos that you're putting there. Or should we call it a sales journey in the videos that you're putting it there?
But you need to make sure you're aligning to what your customers' needs are, like where they're at, how they buy, how they think, and create content around that, create stories around that.
This is the Video Lab show where I have high value conversations with experts in video marketing, video content, and video platforms. I'm your host, Caleb, founder of the Video Lab, a content studio located in downtown Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And you are in the right spot because today I have Melissa Goodwin from Magnetic, CEO of Magnetic, and we're going to be talking about the sales funnel, or what she likes to call the sales journey, and the different styles or types of videos that you put in that sales journey. So let's get into this conversation. And I'm going to cut over to Melissa. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks, Caleb. I appreciate the opportunity to be on this very highly esteemed podcast.
Oh, yes. Well, thank you for saying that because that makes me feel really good.
Yeah, lots of leather-bound books somewhere around
Yeah,
here.
there's some, they might be somewhere. I don't know. Books, maybe not. I don't know.
Great to be here.
Tell me a little bit about Magnetic. Like, what are you doing with Magnetic right now?
That's a great question. What we do at Magnetic is we're a media company and a software company, really focusing on helping businesses grow.
Okay.
So we do that by helping to spark conversations and scale those conversations.
Nice.
So we use some storytelling elements, we use some AI-enabled software, and we really are trying to help people become more visible and influential on the different social platforms. And then also scale those conversations without using a lot of the AI templated, boring stuff. We want to have real conversations, but we want to scale real conversations.
Okay. Now, you say different social media platforms and that type of thing. Is there like one really like focused platform that you kind of zero in on, or is it just kind of across the board?
Such a great question. We do focus on LinkedIn. So we are a LinkedIn first growth agency. We also, though, do spend a lot of time on YouTube. So because we do podcasts and other video content, a lot of our clients do have podcasts that we park on YouTube because we all know that YouTube's the place to be if you have a podcast.
It is, yes.
So we do primarily those two, but we also dabble in other areas as well as needed.
Okay. Now, we have this sales funnel. Like in marketing, we talk about this sales funnel, right? You want to funnel people down, like create awareness. So this is kind of where, the conversation gets a little juicy.
Juicy.
Yeah,
yes.
Juicy. Let's talk about that sales funnel and like the different types of video content kind of throughout that whole process. Now, talking a little bit beforehand, we don't really use the term funnel in your world. You're kind of using the word journey, which I like. Can you kind of explain that?
Well, funnel has kind of a gross connotation to it. Nobody wants to be thrown into a funnel. Do you? You want to be like, hey, now I'm in your funnel.
No, when I think of funnel, I think of like oil coming out of the car into the,
or a cake.
Or a cake. Oh yeah, I guess
delicious.
a cake too. Yeah, I guess a cake too.
But yeah, I mean, it has a bad connotation. And honestly, like buyers are aware of that, but buyers are not, they're very intelligent. So we want to think about building relationships. And there's different ways to do that. I mean, we know that 95% of buyers are not ready to buy today.
Yeah.
So if you consider that, we're building a relationship, and we want to build a relationship in a way that we're aligning to their journey so that when they are ready to buy, they remember us and they want to reach out to us.
Okay. So can you just walk us through what that journey looks like in regards to kind of a sales funnel, and the journey maybe of your clients that you take them through, like just runs through the different pieces of that before we actually get into some of the content that we're putting in those different sections.
Yeah. So if you think about, I come from a design thinking background, and we would do a lot of journey maps. And in a journey map, you're mapping out how somebody thinks and feels and the things that they say at different parts of the journey. So, if I, for instance, I'm getting cable installed and I move into a house, might be one of those critical points where obviously somebody might reach out and say like, hey, do you need a
Insurance.
Midco or insurance, or do you need Wi-Fi in your home?
Yep.
And then I call a couple of companies and I hear it's frustrating and I'm waiting. It's like all the feelings that you go through from the time of moving into that house to when you get your Wi-Fi installed. There's all kinds of feelings and frustrations and joys that happen in between. So as we think about doing journey mapping or aligning our content to our buyer's journey. So they may not know anything about us or what we do. And we call that kind of the top of funnel stuff. And top of funnel is like, I don't know who you are. I don't know what you do, but you might be talking about something interesting that piques my attention. And so that's where if we are creating content for top of funnel, meaning I'm trying to grow my audience, grow my influence, I probably want to focusing on top of funnel content. And that's more generic kinds of content. Like for me, I might talk about innovation in sales, or I might talk about, leadership, like those kind of very generic topics, but I'll put my unique spin on it. And me as the owner of Magnetic will talk naturally about sales and marketing and the things we do to grow companies. So top of funnel tends to be a lot more generic in nature.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we have like the middle of funnel where I might be aware of, I'm kind of aware of what you do. Yeah. So I'm like, maybe I'm aware that there's a place to record video, but I don't know what they're called.
Right.
I don't know who to reach out to, but I'm like, gosh, I really want to record video somewhere.
Yeah.
Like, who would I go to do that?
It's almost like a direct question that you're looking for.
Exactly.
The answer.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And there's really ways to think when we think about middle of funnel content. There's things that we can do, some tricks to create that content so it's most effective.
Ooh, that's a good hook, Melissa.
Yes, it is a good hook. There are some great tricks. And some of those tricks might be look to what your competitors, what are they putting out for content? What kind of followers do they have? And what does that demographic look like? Because that now informs me about who I'm reaching, what they're thinking about, and what I might be saying. Yeah. And then there's also some technical tools you can employ to see like what they're searching for, the exact terms, the videos that get the most hits. And so those are things like, you want to create video? Like here's a video studio, or using the terms, right? Yeah. And then bottom of funnel is somebody knows exactly what problem they have. Yep. They know what the solution is, and now they're evaluating you versus somebody else. Okay. And that's where that content you're talking about. Why am I different? Okay. Why are we unique? Why would you want to work with Magnetic versus company X?
Gotcha.
So there's different ways to think about, when you think about your content, you want to be creating video for each stage of the buyer's journey, each layer of, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel.
We should call it a
top of journey, maybe.
Top of journey.
Middle journey sounds like Middle Earth.
Or a layered cake.
I like that too.
Yeah, I like that too. Okay, so let's get into the weeds a little bit then.
Yeah.
So we have these different sections of the journey that our potential customers might be in.
Yeah.
Let's go right at the top. We're going to start there.
Yeah.
You briefly mentioned it a little bit, but like, what are some good types of content, video specific, because this is the Video Lab show.
Yeah.
Video specific types of content at the very top of that funnel or journey.
Yeah.
Walk us through that.
So we have a client that works in finance, for instance. He's started a lot of companies.
Okay.
And so, we've had him create videos about, tell us about, leadership, do's and don'ts, things I've learned, the top 5 things you shouldn't do as a leader of a small company, things like that. And that resonates with a broad spectrum of people. It's interesting, it's punchy, it's catchy, but it's also something that's kind of universal.
Yeah.
And then you start to bring those people into your orbit by creating interesting videos and along those lines.
So it's kind of like an awareness thing almost.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like maybe answering your frequently asked questions or something.
Right.
Like you have a website, you have frequently asked questions. Maybe those are good videos.
Yeah,
it's top of funnel.
Exactly. Yeah. I do a lot of I spend a lot of time doing design thinking, and I talk about creativity and innovation and some top 5 things. If you want to invent something or something I learned from working with 200 inventors, over the last 10 years. Like here's the top.
That's a great title. I better write that one down.
Yeah, exactly. So hooks like that that are interesting to a wide spectrum of people.
Okay.
But also shows who you are and your experience. So you're kind of bringing them into your into your orbit in some ways.
So you as a company, Magnetic, what types of videos are you making at that top of funnel layer?
Yeah. Sometimes we will accompany our clients to a conference, and we might be just doing like walking videos with them, saying
Gotcha.
like, what are you learning? What's
Mhm.
the top 5 things you learned from the keynote? Like, and it's just really fun, like active stuff that gets a lot of people excited that
On
they
the
want to
fly.
learn.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of on the fly stuff. Sometimes even we do sit and record sometimes, like things that are a little bit scripted, but we try to vary it so it's not the same stuff with the same background all the time.
Yeah.
Even some things that I've tried is like writing stuff down on a piece of paper, like things I do as a CEO, like the top things that I didn't realize I'd be doing, fun things that are funny. So I think adding a little bit of humor, adding a little bit of like creative interest to it is good.
Yeah.
So you'll see a lot of like spoof videos too that do this too.
So it's almost like that edutainment.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like falls kind of within that.
Absolutely.
That realm. Just getting eyeballs on the company, on the videos.
Absolutely. We're going for a wide spectrum of people. You can use humor.
Yeah.
Like you can use just curious, interesting facts.
Okay.
Some people will compile lots of information. Like I studied the top 20, experts in this field, and here's my, here's what I learned.
Now, part of that is almost like thought leadership type stuff too. Like what about like a format like this video podcast format? Would that be kind of in that top layer, or does that fall further down? Are we not there yet?
Yeah, I think this is obviously like a longer form content, and people, when they usually consume longer form content, they're interested in some way. So when we create, obviously you're familiar with this, you've got long form content and short form content. You're usually hooking them with the shorter form content. Sometimes somebody might stumble across your 30-minute podcast and be like, this is great, but that's not the norm.
Yeah. Okay. I gotcha. So we're at the top now. Let's layer down into this cake, funnel, journey, whatever we're calling it.
Yeah.
That middle section. What do you call that again?
Middle of funnel, middle of journey, middle journey, Middle Earth. I don't know.
Middle Earth. Ooh, that's
the
a good
messy
reference.
Middle.
That's a good reference. That actually makes me want to watch The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, there you go. I just watched it not too long ago with my daughter. It was still holds up, a lot of it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it totally does. All right, back to it. Middle of journey. We're creating awareness at the top. Now, the second stage kind of confuses me a little bit.
Yeah.
What types of content should we be making if we're trying to, get people in this journey? They've already seen they've seen our stuff, but now they want to go a little bit deeper.
Yeah, and they know a little bit about you. So for an instance, for you, it might be somebody who is scared of making video.
Oh.
So they're not necessarily evaluating you versus somebody else. They're not ready to buy yet. They're like, I love his videos. I just don't know if I could do that.
Yeah.
That seems scary to me.
Okay.
So then like the antagonist in this particular level is, something like a fear of being on video.
Yeah.
Or, how would that work with what we do? Like, I don't see it, I see what you guys do. We've always done it this way. I don't know if this works. Sometimes the middle funnel is, I'm scared of, like, I don't know if I want to spend the money with you guys because this is going to work.
Yeah.
Like, is there proof? So these are places where you can show proof of like, hey, I worked with this company and they've had good outcomes. Like, here's why for you, like, here's why it's not so scary to be on video, right? Like, here's why you should be showing up on video. And if you don't want to, like, here's some options for your team, or like, how could we help you build trust and develop that rapport? So there's usually like they may not be necessarily evaluating you versus another company, but it's usually you versus some kind of obstacle.
Okay.
Or obstacle. If you watch the Oh Brother, We're Out There. I love that movie.
That is a great movie.
On account of our obstacles.
That is a great movie.
So there's something that they're weighing. You want to talk about, like if, for instance, for us, it's usually people who they're not familiar with executive-led content. They're used to like brand content on LinkedIn. So we have to talk about like why people trust you as a leader versus your brand. Like, you really need to show up as the leader of the company or executives in your company to kind of establish credibility and rapport. And that helps to, build trust and credibility really for your whole brand.
Okay.
So we're talking a lot about executive-led content, how we help people, be their best selves on video, and how we can help you create great stories that connect with your audience.
Okay.
And then sometimes, a lot of times what we run up against as Magnetic is the software. Well, I can buy software to do this, right?
Right.
Can I just buy and do like mass email and then maybe do some software to do outreach, and I never have to go on video and I don't have to do like this whole thing? So we end up having to talk to them about like, but the AI software just doesn't have a great return. People recognize it right away. It looks templated. It looks fake. Their DMs are full of it. They don't want it, right?
Emojis all over the place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So for us, it's usually that's the middle of funnel struggle is like, hey, I know you've been doing it this way for a long time. I know you've been cold calling and mass emailing. You still get a little bit of return on that, but the returns are diminishing these days.
So you're kind of looking at like really emphasizing that like return on investment piece of it almost.
Absolutely.
Like almost like next level, deeper conversation within the brand.
So you can do some case studies here. That, sometimes people will do case studies for bottom of funnel too. But this is just a way to show proof, right? Like I'm not just giving you a promise of like this work. Like we've seen this work with a lot of different people.
Yeah.
And here's why. Here's how it works. Here's how we do what we do. So this is a great area for behind the scenes content.
Okay. I like
so
that.
like, here's our warehouse. Look at all of our, here's how we do what we do. Here's our shipping operations. Here's Marge. She does all of the orders.
Marge.
People love that stuff, right?
I totally do.
So behind the scenes content's great for middle of funnel too, to show how you do, how you think.
Would you say like maybe longer form video is good in this realm?
Sure.
Like, maybe the shorter stuff up top. I mean, it kind of varies kind of depending on, platform, audience, all that stuff. But would you say like maybe a little bit deeper videos?
Yeah, I've seen some really great, like on LinkedIn, the rule of thumb used to be just only 1 to 2 minutes, but I've seen a lot of really great 7-minute videos recently that have had great traction. Yeah.
Interesting.
And it really was about like, here's how this works.
Yeah, right.
And I watched the whole thing. Like I rarely do that, but if they're really well done, people will watch a longer video.
And LinkedIn is definitely, like, I don't want to get into a LinkedIn conversation right now, but LinkedIn is definitely trending more video centric.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it was like article, text post,
carousel
centric. Yeah. But like more and more, the more I'm on it, the more I see just video after video after video. So that's interesting that you say that, even long form video.
Absolutely. And you'll see, if I'm like, I have my phone here, but there is on the bottom, there is a video tab that just scrolls just like an Insta reel or TikTok. So
interesting. So I like this middle piece, and it has kind of confused me a little bit. I'll be fully honest, like what fits in here. Like I'm, for me personally with the Video Lab, like I'm in straight like brand awareness stage of like just getting the word out about it. Like, look what Sioux Falls has. Like you can come in here and like record a bunch of content, a month worth of content, right? And so like I'm discovering like what is that next piece then for me? And I think it is some of the like targeted audience, like direct speaking to a target audience, educational style content, maybe longer form. So I'm just kind of working through some of that stuff.
Like work it out. Go for it.
Work it out. Discovering what it is. This is like a therapy session.
It's great.
Yeah.
Well, and for you, you're kind of the only professional game in town that I'm aware of. So you probably don't need to necessarily fixate on the bottom of funnel stuff yet.
Right.
So for you, it probably is more of the awareness and why video.
Yeah.
Even though a lot of people love watching videos, but they never. It's sort of like making the light bulb go on. Like you could be doing this too.
Totally.
You should be doing this too. And we run into that too with the podcast, with our podcast offering, where people either think that it's over, I'm too late, or like, well, do I have to do my own? They're scared about the investment. Like, do I have to start my own podcast? It seems like a lot. So we have to help people through that process, and that's really middle of funnel on the podcast side.
Yeah, it's really interesting too, because I've had several conversations with especially people over the age of 40 now that are like realizing the importance of video.
It takes us a while to get there.
Takes a while, but they already feel behind the ball, like so far behind. And so it's like some of those education pieces that, you know, I'm discovering, like, this is what this group needs, is like, you need to jump in first of all, because you have so much to offer. Especially over the age of 40. I just dedicated a whole podcast episode.
The expertise that you have
at that
level is in your life experience.
Yeah, 100%.
The stories, all of those things are really incredible to tell. And, you know, young people, some of them have incredible stories too. Of course, everybody has a great story, but they just have such finesse and ability to do the editing that I think it's intimidating for us older folks, those of us over 40.
That's the biggest piece, you know, is that. And, you know, if you can do a one take thing, that's fantastic, but you still might need to do some trimming and stuff. And so that's like the barrier. The biggest barrier to some people is making their own videos and just missing out on a huge opportunity.
Absolutely. You know, when I was in my early 20s, I bought this big Mac, and I was going to do some video editing, and I coupled with someone who did some wedding photography, and we did some stuff. So I'm not totally new to this, but coming back to it after 25 years,
it's a little different.
You know, I looked at iMovie and I was like, I don't know where anything is. And I CapCut and Captions app and what else? Adobe Premiere.
Instagram has a new one called Edits now. Which looks really good. And the analytics that you can get in there as well for your Instagram, like reels and things like that. Pay attention to this, people. Pay attention.
Okay. Yeah. And then TikTok as well has their own editor, right? Yeah. To a degree.
A lot of people will just edit their videos right in TikTok and not even post it. They'll just download it.
You get great songs that way. You can't get great songs because of the copyright in other places. So
true.
That's why it's fun. So there's a lot. It can be overwhelming, I think. And even for me, who's dabbled in it enough where I can play and I can sort of like get by, right? We still have an editor.
Oh, yeah.
But it's so much and it gets really overwhelming. And then I have to step back and say to myself, like, what am I really good at? Like, I see a great story. I can help people, you know, tell a great story. I know what captures my attention and what works from a business perspective. I can help in that side. So I leave the editing up to the people who are great at that. And, you know, every once in a while I'll try to do something myself and I'm like, well, you know,
it is.
We'll throw it out there and see what happens. But it can totally be overwhelming.
Okay, so we have top of funnel. Yeah. We have the middle section. We'll call it the belly.
Ooh, the belly of the beast. The messy middle.
I don't really
call it the messy middle.
The messy middle. I like that more than belly.
Yeah.
Belly just is weird. I don't know why.
It has a weird connotation. Yeah, there's some weird stuff going on.
So now we're at the bottom of the funnel.
Mm-hmm.
Like the peak or the point of the funnel. What should we be making there?
This is a great place for case studies. You can do some more behind the scene. Like, here's exactly how we do it. That's different than so and so. Like, really ways to show that you're unique.
Like differentiate.
And your expertise. Yeah. Anything that's differentiating content, right? So we have some clients that, you know, they're like, not only did we do this, but we actually owned a business. And so we'll do some like before and after, you know, like this is how it went and how it started and how it's going videos that have done really well for them. And that kind of stuff that just shows like, hey, I've been there before. I'm like you. I'm in the trenches, and these other people have not been there. So just showcasing and highlighting your unique expertise, skills, or offerings.
Yeah. All right. I think that's a good overview of like this sales journey and taking people. And, you know, as I think through like the content that I see online, this makes a lot more sense to me. You know, just those different stages. And like, now I think I can be able to like place this. Oh, that's the top of funnel piece. Like they're just creating awareness, like kind of more general type of stuff.
They're hooking me in. So if you see like a funny little skit and then you follow them, they got you. And that's okay. Yeah, that's okay.
I've been gotten so many times.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Yeah. All right, Melissa. Now let's say we had this whole conversation.
Yeah.
Based on this journey. Sales journey and the content that we're making. What if somebody's watching this, they don't get anything from this whole conversation? What's one thing that you would want them to take away about this? One thing.
So you know your customers. You know, I would think really, really deeply about when did they first find out about you,
Okay.
and how did they find out about you?
Okay.
When did they start to when did you start to do the dance a little bit, right? Where you're kind of, they maybe commented on something and you commented back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when did the shift happen when they decided to reach out to you?
Okay.
And you can ask some of your current customers. If you don't know that, those are great questions to ask your best clients. And that should inform your content first and foremost, above and beyond all of your, strategy sessions around where we should shoot, what the lighting looks like. All that's important. You want it to look good. But you need to make sure you're aligning to what your customers' needs are, like where they're at, how they buy, how they think, what made them ultimately pull the trigger to work with you.
Yeah.
And create content around that, create stories around that. I think that's probably the most critical thing, is understanding who you're targeting.
Yeah.
And how you can reach more of them.
Love that. And double down.
Double down.
All right. Cool. Well, Melissa, where can people find you?
They can find us on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Find me on LinkedIn personally, or Magnetic.
Okay.
Magnetic.services is our website.
Nice.
So you can reach us that way.
And I will have all the information down in the description. So,
yeah. And we're on all the socials.
All right.
So you can reach us on any of those platforms. But primarily we're LinkedIn first. So we're always on LinkedIn. Okay. Send us a message, or
you are very active on LinkedIn.
Very active on LinkedIn.
Like, oh, there's another. Oh,
there's another one.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah.
Melissa, always showing up in my feed.
Embarrassingly active.
Sweet. Well, thanks so much for being on this episode and having this conversation. I think it's very helpful just seeing those different pieces throughout that funnel system or journey system.
Cool. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure.
All right. Thanks.